Welcome to Good Intentions and Bad Outcomes, a podcast about challenges and practices you might encounter in the workplace, where good intentions have unintended and often unnoticed consequences. I'm Hino,
And I'm Wayne.
and every time we share a situation that we or one of our listeners have seen or have encountered in the workspace, and that is challenging in some way, we discuss the what and the why, and we try to come up with alternatives on the spot. So let's get started. So today's topic is really about performance targets, and the situation that we want to start from is one where HR is genuinely interested and genuinely motivated to help their team grow and to help their team perform better. So in order for them to perform better, they need to contribute to more of the outcomes of the company, and in order to measure that, they come up with a performance target that every employee needs to have. However, depending on their situation, of course, a certain amount of projects completed. That's the performance target. So, Wayne, let's talk a little bit about this. What are the kind of good intentions that are behind this whole situation?
Well, if you approach it from the HR department's point of view, you've got probably two things that you want to promote, and that's employee growth, helping your
Hmm.
employees be the best they can be, and maybe follow a career path that's of interest to them, and you want to help the organization that you're in do well. So it kind of makes sense if we deliver more successful projects, then the company is going to be good. And if this person can manage successful projects, it's going to be good for them. So, it makes sense on the surface that if we, give a target to this manager or this person about delivering things successfully, and they do it, then they should be performing.
Yeah, exactly. And we've seen performance target to be very successfully applied in, for instance, sales environments where
Mhm.
people need to sell a certain amount of services or units of whatever it is that they're selling in order to get certain bonuses or rewarded in a certain way. And in those situations, for sure, they work quite well. So, what
Mhm.
would make this situation slightly different, Wayne? What are the kinds of things that we need to keep in mind in an environment in which HR is trying to motivate and genuinely trying to motivate its employees?
Yeah, well, you want to be careful. Anytime you go to measure something, measurement puts a whole new spin on how the person who is being measured feels about it, right? So,
Hmm.
um, right, if somebody hands you a number and says, meet this number, then you feel obligated to somehow try to reach that number. Whether it's good or bad, you're going to do what you can to try to hit that number. So we got to be extremely careful, especially in HR, if we're going to try to measure people somehow, what a psychological effect that's going to have on people.
Yeah.
In some cases, it can be really good. Like you mentioned, the sales. I've also seen, like in a call center, how many successful calls you're able to make happen. Maybe.
Oh,
Um,
I've seen some challenges there as well, right?
yeah, yeah,
I mean, I can speak from experience. People very close to me who actually worked in those kind of call centers and who were measured by very aggressive targets. And the result was that the service significantly declined for reasons that you just
right.
mentioned. And that is that they were measuring the wrong things. What is a successful call? Is that a call that
Yes,
stops? That finishes? Or is it a call that gets something resolved, right?
yeah,
Those are two very different things.
yeah,
But anyways, let's get back to the HR situation here. You
sure,
called out the effect of metrics on the psychological or the way that people look at this, the
right,
way that people look at the work that they're actually doing. The kind of the motivation or the drive to make those numbers look good because,
right.
well, not just because we want the numbers to look good, they also have an immediate impact on our
Right.
wallet, right?
That's right.
It's definitely something that we need to take into account, and it's only normal that people want to have good results. So I know it's called something, but I always call it "you get what you measure." So as soon as a metric is becomes a target, it ceases to be a good metric. It ceases to be a metric that gives us information about what's really going on in the system, right? Do you remember the name of the particular anti-pattern or
I
thing
believe
there, Wayne?
you're referring to Goodhart's law, I believe.
That's the one. That's
Yes,
the one. Yeah,
that's right. Goodhart's law. Yeah.
absolutely. So definitely don't measure me on remembering the name of all the laws that we're using.
That's right. Although I take that metric on, go ahead.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. So Goodhart's law, yeah, the metric itself becomes the objective. That's what we're
Hmm.
trying to reach. We're not trying to
Hmm.
actually do what's right. We're trying to meet the number, and that can be extremely counterproductive. And that's where we get the bad intentions coming out. So,
Yeah.
for instance, I can give you two examples of where I saw this kind of go wrong. In one job where I worked. The They wanted to do an agile transformation. So they said,
Hmm.
here we've got so much budget for this. We're going to fund projects based on whether or not you're agile. So we would like a target of 50% of your projects agile, 50% of the financial spend for your projects agile. So guess what happened? Manager said, what's our top spending project? That one's agile. We've now got 50% of our spend on an agile project.
Right.
Now, whether or not it was actually agile or not, that's
Yeah.
made no difference. So, but he
Right.
met his target by adjusting the numbers.
Right.
Second example, um, more from an HR perspective, and this adds on one more layer of complexity. It's the incentive behind it. So we tie incentives to the numbers, and we just multiply the
Right.
problem even more. This manager was given so many successful projects to meet by the end of the year, and his bonus was going to be based on that. When we approached him about perhaps doing agile on one of his projects, he just laughed. He said, why in the world would I ever do that? Because I know as soon as I change methodologies, it's going to throw my project off track. I'm not going to meet the goal and I'm not going to get my bonus.
Right. Right. So the long-term investment was not um, chosen, or the long-term investment was not interesting enough for this particular individual because they were measured on short-term benefits, right? And those short-term benefits would be jeopardized if you would look at
Yeah.
the long term. So there's a couple of things here that are happening, right? So it is the fact that people really want to make the number look good. The fact that it drives certain behaviors through that, but also the fact that you're looked at very differently, right? You suddenly only that successful, whoever defines success and whatever that success is
Yeah.
defined like, finishing a project on time and on budget might look like success, but does that really help your customers? Does that really help the bottom line of the company? Those kinds
Mhm.
of things are still a question, of course. But having you look at that work, I've been in a situation myself where I can actually talk about my own case where I was measured on certain things as well, and as a result I started reducing my collaboration with the rest of the team,
Right.
because that was the only way that I could get through my work and the only way that I could get the bonus that I was after at that time. That was a while ago, and now I realized that that was actually detrimental for the entire team,
Yes.
and had negative impact. So, which is what we're trying to avoid here as well. So even those are the impacts that we're talking about, the unintended outcomes or the unintended bad outcomes that you can get from having this
Mhm.
really good intent of helping your teams focusing on the right things, completing their projects, to, hey, we're going to reduce collaboration, we're going to reduce really looking at the outcomes that we're trying to achieve and really focusing on, just get this done, get this out of the door, because that's what I'm measured on, right?
Yeah.
So, how are we going to mitigate that, Wayne? There's a couple of different things that we can do here, right? And not all situations are the same, so we definitely need to explain a little bit more in context.
Yeah, so I was thinking the same thing. I mean, if we choose the incentives wrong or we choose the numbers wrong, we see the bad outcomes of that. Um, how do we make sure we still reach those two goals? Is helping the employee be the best person they can be
Hmm.
and further their career path, and then helping the company to do well in whatever it is that they're doing, right? And that can take many different forms. So performance measurement for employees. If I were an HR person and I worked in my department to try to achieve those two goals, how would I go about doing it? Do you have any off the top suggestions?
Well, I have one thing. So, what often, and especially from an HR perspective, I find it a bit. I don't find it the right metric to actually, from an HR perspective, immediately look at how many projects have you completed. That's not
Hmm.
the role of HR from my perspective, right? The
Right.
way that I look at it is HR is responsible for ensuring that there is a healthy workplace
Yes.
where people grow and that they can contribute, that they have all the right tools to contribute to the outcome of the company. That is really where you want to go. So what can we measure from that perspective where people help grow the company, help the engagement within the company, help people understand how they make the right decisions and so forth. And that might be related to how many times you take initiative. It might be related to how many times do you actually help your colleagues out. It might be related to how many times do you sign up for education in whichever way you want to consume education, right? Is it
Hmm.
writing a book that you get or reading a book that you get approval for, or you get budget for from the company? Is it attending a webinar? Is it sharing something in a brown bag or lunch and learn session? Whatever it might be. Is it trying to get to a conference? So I would look into those ways of engaging your people from an HR perspective to see whether they perform well. And then on the other hand, I would introduce things like OKRs to set the direction and the alignment across your entire organization. That all of those efforts, the growth of your individuals, are moving in the same direction and are working towards those outcomes that you want to achieve as a company. And those outcomes then are going to be significantly removed from the actions that you are taking. And as a result, there is some flexibility into which projects you might want to focus on first, because they lead to the bigger outcomes. And then it's no longer a numbers game
Right.
from a how many projects have we done perspective. Sorry, there's like three recommendations there in one.
Yep. Yep. So I was thinking along the same line. If you're interested in your employees and you want them to do better, then I've seen lots of companies implement something like a happiness score, sort of an employee
Right.
net promoter score. How happy are you working here? Would you stay working here? Would you recommend working here to one of your friends or relatives? Right. So there's a mentor kind of thing that sometimes people get involved with because they're so happy with
Hmm.
the company they want to bring people in. That's the kind of a positive atmosphere that you want in your company.
Yeah.
But we've got to be careful because a very joyous workforce does not necessarily translate into a profitable company.
No. No.
So you want your people happy but producing the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. So I like your suggestion with OKRs there. It's more of the product and the performance
Yeah.
of the company itself. And if you don't necessarily, I don't think, have to tie them together, but I think
No.
when you do have happy people, you will be more successful as a company. So one naturally leads to the other.
Yeah, I think they serve two different purposes, right? So one is really about measuring, and the other one is really about aligning and setting a direction for your organization. And if you have an engaged workforce, and you setting out the lines of the direction of where the company wants to go, then
Mhm.
naturally, or at least that's what I would expect. That excuse me, that workforce would work towards, or would focus their engagement on that aligned direction.
There's one more thing I'd like to throw in there that, and I've seen it happen in lots of companies, and HR departments think they need to do this, but it's like dousing the fire with a bucket of water. is the performance review meeting. So
Ah,
once a year, you get called into the office and they go over your numbers and tell you all the stuff, and then
you
and
know
then
what?
off you go for the next year. And it's like, no, don't do that. That kills any
Yeah, you
kind
know
of
what?
ambition you
When
have, right?
maybe we should keep that for a next session, because there's too much
Okay.
to say about that one as well, and
Yes.
then we can spend a little bit more time instead of trying to cram it in the last 15 seconds of our time slot.
Okay.
What
Excellent.
do you say? Okay, fantastic. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you have a situation at work, whether it's in the past or right now, that you feel has unintended bad outcomes, let us know, and we might discuss it in one of our future sessions. Thanks, Wayne.
Thanks, Eno.
Bye bye.